Good evening, my name is Garrett, and welcome to The Last Call. On tonight's verses, we have Maker's Mark 46 coming in at a 47% ABV, no age statement, versus Maker's Mark 101 coming in at a 50.5% ABV, no age statement. So I've done several different bottles of Maker's Mark, and those will be linked up above and down below when those are live, so you can enjoy those as well. But I've never put the two up against each other. And the big difference between these that we know of is that they use French oak staves additionally to the Maker's blend to make something completely different. And one thing to also note nowadays is the bottle actually changed shape to go more in line with their standard lineup. So you won't necessarily see these rounded shaped bottles of the 46 anymore. What's out there is what is out there from what we hear. So as always, we're going to be trying them and doing some comparisons, A, B, and really kind of give a comparison between the two. So let's get into it. But yeah, Maker's Mark was one of those bottles that I fell in love with. And I was a Scotch drinker prior, for the most part. And having the very first Maker's Mark was an experience because I'd never had anything like it, especially in bourbons. I had a lot of mediocre things prior. And so I really branched out to their whole core lineup because I really think that they do a great job. And it's a bottling that I think a lot of people tend to overlook, especially once they get into the whiskey world. They forget about Maker's Mark. It's kind of like that your first girlfriend situation. Like, you loved her at the time, but you moved on. All right. I'm always wondering why they went cork on the 46, but the standard Maker's Mark and the 101 they didn't. Weird thing. I don't know. Okay. Let's go for notes on the 46. Oh, yeah. The spiciness of this one, which I've discovered, at least through my palate and nose, is a lot of times things that use French oak, it tends to give it a big spicier difference. A lot of spice comes off of it, and you definitely get that here. ABV really doesn't show up much, if at all. You still get that classic cherry note, but you also get this almost mapley, teetering maple syrup. Not quite as sweet as a maple syrup, maybe like a natural, fresh maple syrup kind of sweetness. But you get that spice in there still. You still get that cinnamon note. But that French oak really takes it to another level. Yeah. Oh, it's so good. Always forget how much I did enjoy the 46. I don't know why I always thought I was like, I don't really care for it. And every time I go back to it, I'm like, man, I love this. And you almost get a sweet vanilla in there too. Like a sweet vanilla with that it's almost like a cherry vanilla with that sweet of the maple syrup as well. Yeah, that's good. Okay, let's go for the 101. And see, this one for me, the spice quality is so different. Where here I'm getting a spiciness, and you can tell it's from oak. The spice here is almost like grandma's kitchen spices. Like just something freshly baked, homemade. Just got that kind of warmth of a kitchen in there. ABV really doesn't show up. You still get that classic cherry in there, but it's a little more of a mature cherry. Not like sweet or anything like that. And you don't really get a lot of sweetness on the 101. It's just kind of there. There is a little bit, but you get more oak. And the spice is a little more subtle. And again, more baking spices versus oak spice here. But that's a majority of what I'm getting there. Just lovely sweet, but not overly sweet. I love the 101. It's one of my favorites. Okay, let's go for taste. Maple syrup comes out on the taste. It's got that mapley goodness to it. Cherries there as well. Oh, that cherry's so good. The spice character shows up. comes to the party swinging. Like right from the beginning to the end. Beautiful spice. I love that French oak in there. It really does make a difference. Getting that caramel now. Getting that oak caramel sweetness. But that French oak woody factor going on with that spice is another level. So good. Okay. Let's go for the 101. And here we shift back down. We went to high gear with the 46. Here we shifted back down. We're cruising a little bit more. Just going simple. Get that beautiful cherry in there, that oak. A little bit of spice in there, but the spice is different. It is definitely that clove, nutmeg, freshly baked situation. Again, I always refer to that as like grandma's kitchen. Like if you would smell that, it's like, yeah, it smells like a grandma's kitchen. Something freshly baked, but here you get that oak as well. And the oak factor is completely different than the 46s. Where here you're getting that oaky spicy. Here you're getting more of this oak standard. The cherry note isn't quite as strong as the standard Maker's Mark. You're going more of a mature, more natural cherry versus like cherry cough syrup sweet. Almost a little fruity there now. Just a little bit. But that spice that's there is nice and simple. And Maker's Mark, since they tend to use a little bit more wheat profile to their mash bill, that sweetness is welcomed for me. Even in the finish, getting a nice oak, the spice, that sweetness is in there. And everything rounds out very well. Nothing too crazy. It does remind me a lot of the standard one. Just a little bit more of those baker spices going on there. Still good. Okay, let's talk about market price, because we all know market price is market price, and it's always going to vary. In my market, you can usually find the 46 between, it really varies, $35 to $45, depending on where I'm shopping at. Usually like 36, I want to say. 35, 36. Online, I've seen it go upwards in the 40s, sometimes like 45s. But overall, that tends to be where it goes. The Maker's Mark 101 is a little bit different beast. Since it's labeled limited edition, some places are playing up on that. Personally, I can find it in my market for right around the $32 to $30. Sometimes upwards of $33, $35, somewhere in there. But for the most part, I've seen some online places selling this for as high as $50s, $60s plus. I think the unfortunate reality here is that, again, since people are playing this one up, at the $30 range, I think this is beautiful. And at the $40 range, I don't think this one's bad at all either. I would obviously shoot lower, because at this price point, you're kind of going toe-to-toe with the cask strength Maker's Mark, though you are getting two different profiles, though, so you do have to remember that. But honestly, both can coexist, and I said this about my other Maker's Mark comparisons. If you like spicy, and especially French oak spiciness, the 46 is for you. It brings a lot of things to the table, but pulls back on some of that sweetness that some Maker's Mark have. Whereas the 101, you're looking at a little bit different spice. You're going to more of those classic flavors, but the grandma's kitchen spice is going on for me personally. Again, I like them both. Would I pick one over the other? If you poured me either of these, I'd be a happy camper, honestly. I think they're both really solid pours. So yeah, there you have it. Maker's Mark 46 versus Maker's Mark 101. If you have any questions about either bottle, let me know down in the comment section below. I will do my best to answer it. And if you have any specific comparisons I should do for the channel, also let me know down below. Doing these A/B comparisons is a lot of fun, and I learn a lot as I go. So as always, may your last drink of the night be the best one.
Like, it might not.